The closing date for the National Student Financial Aid Scheme applications is around the corner. The scheme is urging prospective students to apply online. This is before the end of November. After November, no applications will be considered. NSFAS has received more than 190,000 applications since it reopened this year's session in September. For more on this, we're joined by the NSFAS's administrator, Randall Carolissen, who's joining us from our studios. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Mr. Carolissen. When we break down these numbers, it comes to about 3.5 students that are applying every single day since you opened this system. What are you reading into those numbers, especially when we look at the insurmountable need that there clearly is in the country for funding?
Well, look, we are very pleased with the numbers. It's 3,500 on average per day that we're getting. We are way ahead, 100% up on last year at the same time. And these are all first-time entrants. So you must also remember that people that are already in the system don't apply, so those will be returning students. So we are very pleased with the success of our enrollment season thus far. And we want to encourage the students that still have not applied to make urgency to get onto our system. It speaks to the renewed confidence that I think people have in NSFAS ability to administer the funds. It speaks to people appreciating the fact that skills is going to be the next determinant if you apply for a job. And it's a very positive move overall for the country that young people are starting to make use of these opportunities that are available to them.
Let's talk then about the adjudication process and how many of these students that actually apply that you will be able to cater to.
Well, look, it's fairly simple, and for us at least. We have tested our systems for application, and it works very well. But let's just quickly spend some time on the criteria. So if you're in a household that earns less than 350,000, you qualify from an economic perspective. But there are other qualification criteria as well. So if you're a SASSA household, you qualify automatically. When you're an orphan, you qualify automatically. Or when you're in foster care, you qualify automatically. Then there's also special dispensation for disabled students. Their bar is set at 600,000 Rand per household for disabled students. So it's fairly easy to apply. I should just say that when people do apply, sometimes we ask them for additional documentation or we ask them to submit all the documentation. And in the case where they don't, that does not mean that they're disqualified. They are considered to be an applicant, and then we contact them for follow-up to get us the necessary documents. So we are very pleased with the way things are going, and we are, like I said, we urge people to apply before the due date.
And certainly, while it is good news, my second question to you was how many students will you be able to accommodate? You didn't answer that part.
Oh, okay, my apologies. So, look, we are matching our applicants to the, shall we call it the higher education system. We know that universities have enrollment plans. And so we have a very careful balance and assistance with, alignment with the university enrollment plans and the TVET plans, I should also say. So we, of course, we are not there where we should be. Our target, our enrollment this year was just under 600,000. We have budgeted for 800,000, so there's enough budget to consider a significant increase this year.
All right, and you're looking at about an additional 200,000 to the already existing 600,000.
Yeah, and this we suspect will not come from the existing school leavers. Also, previous school leavers that never took up NSFAS, they are also eligible, I should add. So it's not just from this year's school leavers.
And of course, you know, a part of these developments come also in a week where we're hearing from Minister Naledi Pandor, who's been emphasizing the need for critical skills in this country to be addressed. Is there any variation that you perhaps look at in terms of the number of those who need funding to go to universities or those who need funding to go to TVET colleges? Are you able to, make that calculation right down to the T?
Yes, we are doing forecasts, yes, and we provide those forecasts through to the institutions so that they have an idea about what is eating them at the door. But what is happening is that we will, we acknowledge applicants as we receive them. Then when the students register at institutions, they might receive multiple confirmations from different institutions. At that point, from that point onwards, we consider them to be in the system. When they register, that's when we confirm their funding. And therefore, we have to match and look carefully at the enrollments at university level and TVET colleges, because sometimes people shift between these two systems. What is also important to note is that we are in discussions, or we had several discussions with the Department of Higher Education to bring more fairness into the system so that the TVET students' allowances match those of the university students, so that there is no discrimination between the systems and that the TVET colleges are becoming more attractive. Our forecast over the next 5 years are indeed based on a strong uptake of TVET colleges offerings, and also, of course, to be more skills-based, because universities will eventually reach some point of saturation, and that growth will then be strongly influenced by the TVET offerings, yes.
Sure, and you bring me to my next point, just before we close off. In terms of, there's no question about the amount of money that's being put into the system, but a big question has always surrounded the output, whether or not there's value for money in terms of the retention rates of students within universities or institutions of higher learning, but also those who are able to complete whatever qualification it is that they're going for. So that retention and graduation rate. I mean, are there any mechanisms that you're putting in place to ensure that at the end of the day, there will be return on this big investment that is being made?
So we have, over the very short period that I've been there, over the past 2 months, we've developed some research capacity so that we actually be able to track the success of our students, to see whether they are finding jobs and whether we are looked after in general at these institutions. So we are going to be increasingly holding these institutions to account, because we are investing taxpayers' money into these institutions or into our students, and we would like to see a return on investment. We would like to see our students to be successful. So more than before, I certainly intend to hold institutions much more accountable for the success of our students and whether they are adequately prepared for the workplace. So we're looking at indicators about the uptake of our students into the workplace. A very interesting statistics which we've uncovered quite recently is that NSFAS funded students are actually doing a lot better than unfunded students. That's very interesting statistic. And it shows that when students have peace of mind about their financial well-being, and they can concentrate on their studies without having to worry where the next meal is coming from. So there's a whole host of very interesting statistics that we're uncovering. We do it down to institutional level. We know how many institutions take how many of our students, and we are going to talk to some of those institutions that are actually have not come to the party as we would like they should have come to the party. So there's a whole host of interesting measures of account that we are going to be talking to our institutions about.
All right. Well, certainly that is great news to hear. Let me thank you so much for your time tonight on Newsnight. The NSFAS Administrator, Randall Carolissen.